Today's Spotlight is brought to you in part by presenting sponsor, Busey Bank. Busey, your dream, our promise. If you're just tuning in, you're watching Spotlight. I'm your host, Jane Wynette, and joining me now are Tina Marie Hernandez and Jim Elliott from Diveheart. So welcome.
Thank you. We're so glad to be here.
Oh, we're happy to have you back. Tina Marie, good to see you again. And Jim, so nice to meet you.
Thank you.
We're going to start right off with you, Tina Marie. What is Diveheart?
So Diveheart is a 501c3 nonprofit. We're out of Downers Grove, and we provide pool programs of scuba diving for people with disabilities. We like to call it people of all abilities because we believe that even our volunteers get something out of it when they come and do our programs. We do pool programs all over from Milwaukee all the way down to Lockport, and new ones are popping up all the time.
That's wonderful. So, I mean, it's centered, but you're moving it out. You're trying to do a lot of different places.
Right, and we invite everyone who wants to come. Our pool programs are free. We also do things like education and outreach. So not enough people know that this is a possibility for them. So we go and we do presentations for service organizations or Girl Scout troops or school programs that might be at a high school. We also do research, and we also host trips for people with disabilities who want to take their scuba diving to the next level, so to speak.
That's exciting, because I think you're right. I think a lot of people wouldn't naturally think if they had physical challenges that perhaps scuba diving was an option for them.
Correct, and we work with physical and cognitive disabilities.
Okay, okay, thanks for that clarification.
Yes, so there's a lot of spectrum type disorders that we might come and make friends with. So
nice, that's great. Well, Jim, that kind of leads into my question to you. Talk a little bit about some of the benefits that you see when people come and they participate in scuba diving.
Well, this really isn't, and this is kind of interesting. I don't think this is about scuba diving.
Okay.
I think this is about taking the unrealized human potential that exists in people with disabilities and creating a paradigm shift. So now it's not Johnny in a wheelchair, it's Johnny the scuba diver. He's no longer defined by that disability. And then what we try to do is we try to focus them on coral reef restoration, marine biology, oceanography, and make them good stewards of the environment. So when I founded Diveheart, it was to build confidence, independence, and self-esteem in people with disabilities. So it really, we just happen to use zero gravity and scuba therapy to do it.
Okay, that's interesting. I like the way you talk about that, because I think oftentimes we do feel like we're defined by limitations that perhaps others have put on us. And you're really saying, no, anybody can do this, and this is a great opportunity for some independence.
Yeah, you can imagine if you spent your whole life in a wheelchair, you've probably been told your whole life you can't do things. You know, well, you can't play basketball, you can't play football, you're in a wheelchair, or you have autism or something like that. If you have a traumatic injury, now you might have been a champion athlete, and now all of a sudden you can't do things. So this traumatic loss is in your life, and that creates depression and things like that. So what we try to do is, transition people into a zero gravity environment and give them freedom. If you have mobility issues, range of motion is increased. We've done research, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I know that autism, for example, is amazing, the benefits we get right away. In fact, here in Naperville, at one of the high schools, we do things at Matea, Wabansie, and Nequa, and we had a young man at Wabansie that was nonverbal, and he was a little unruly, and his teacher said basically, Johnny, if you want to do this with Diveheart, you better calm down. Well, I saw he was unruly. I said, don't put fins on him because he might take off on us. So basically, we put the kit on him and we put the mask on him, and sometimes that's a challenge. But he sat right down in 4 feet of water, and we're like, okay. And we sat down with him, and we're playing rockets and making puzzles and stuff like that. And then we started showing him some skills, and he stood up at the end of 20 minutes after he had drained the tank, and he turned to his teacher, and this kid who we thought was nonverbal turned and said, I really enjoyed that. I think I'd like to try it again. And we just went, what? But pressure is a therapy for people with autism. So they have pressure vests and weighted blankets, sensory deprivation rooms. And what going underwater does is it eliminates surface distractions and allow the pressure, ambient pressure helps them focus. And it's amazing, even just the first pool session, some of the benefits that we see.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the research, so I'm just going to kind of dive into that because you have scuba therapy, and it really is viewed as therapy, right? And you're doing a lot of research with that. So say a little bit more about that, Jim.
Well, Midwestern University, right in Downers Grove, has done several studies with us. In fact, Tina Marie did a questionnaire in Cozumel. We had 40 some odd people, 9 with disabilities, 5 in wheelchairs. And it's quality of life stuff. A lot of it's soft research, but also doctors from Hopkins and Kennedy Krieger went with one of the teams we trained and found that there's an extra output of serotonin if you go to 66 feet underwater, and that helps with pain management. And in fact, the veterans with PTSD had 80% of their PTSD symptoms were alleviated during the week that they did this pilot study. So what we're hoping to do is replicate that with a facility.
Yeah, we're constantly trying to encourage doctors, researchers to do more research in this area where scuba diving is involved. We did they did the research with veterans, but there was another doctoral student who did a 3-year study with us, and it was for people with PTSD and traumatic brain injuries. And she was the one who pointed out to us that the very first pool session seems to be so impactful. And if you've ever experienced it, or people who might have experienced it, they say that over and over again, whether they have a disability or not, because it's so unnatural for you to find yourself breathing underwater, right? So your mind kind of goes, wow. But what it does for people with disabilities is it gives them an extra boost because they're doing something that so many people are afraid to do. Yeah. So many people feel that they've told themselves they can't do. Frankly, the people with disabilities that I've ever worked with are the best students ever, because once they decide to do something, they are going to get it done.
All in. Yeah,
right. So it's wonderful.
Now, how do people get engaged with you, Tina Marie? How would they get engaged either as a participant or a volunteer?
They can reach out to us through our website. We have a volunteer forum, a short forum just to get people started, and then we contact back with them. We have connection on our website where it says programs, and people can follow the calendar links and sign up for a program, which are, again, they're free of charge for people with disabilities if they come to one of our pool programs. If they then find that they want to do more things, they can. Some of those may include a cost, but we are always willing to help them with cost and help them fundraise if we need to fundraise.
Funding, that's always an issue for every not-for-profit. How are you funded?
We are funded 99% through people giving us individual donations. We do have some grants that are given to us throughout the year, and some very special angels who come up with larger amounts of money, but for the most part it's people sending us $50, $100, $1,000. We have service organizations who help us in the area, and that's because they believe in what we're doing in their community. And it is very much about community. Wherever we have a team, wherever we have a program going, it's for those people, both the volunteers in that community as well as the people who are diving with us.
Okay, that's wonderful. Well, I thank you so much for coming by. I mean, you're doing amazing work, and I can only, and I know I've spoken to one of your participants before about that feeling, and like you talked about that very first dive and how freeing that experience was, and as you talked about, Jim, that self-esteem and that belief. So I wish you all the best. I know you have some other exciting news that will be coming sooner than later that you're trying to work, right? Jim, am I right? You're working on a campaign to finish maybe for a facility for your own?
We want to replicate in a confined warm water environment what we've found in open water, which is really uncontrollable, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah. And these days more so than ever.
And if people go to the website and click on media, there's probably 200 news stories and videos that tell a million different stories about autism and Down syndrome and everything that we do.
Terrific. Well, thank you again so much. We appreciate it. And if you would like to learn more about the services that Diveheart offers to people with disabilities, please go and visit their website. We're going to take a quick break, but don't go away. We're coming right back with more Spotlight.